Have you ever encountered a hurdle with launching or growing your business? Listen, there are two things that run a business, the back end and your soft skills.
Telling you right now, if these aren't in place, you'll lose clients and you'll lose money. You don't want that? Well, you're in the right place.
Hey, I'm Dana.
Hey, I'm Sarah.
We're your hosts of the Entrepreneur Encounter, and we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes glance into our businesses, give you genuine feedback, tips and tricks, plus occasionally bring on guests that care about supporting you to grow your business organically and nurturing authentic relationships. Are you ready?
Welcome back to another episode of Entrepreneur Encounter. We're your hosts, Sarah
and Dana.
And in this episode, we welcome Mickie Kennedy. He shares his journey as an entrepreneur, highlighting the importance of self-awareness, effective management, and customer experience. He discusses the challenges he faced in hiring and managing staff, realizing that he was the problem due to his micromanagement style. By stepping back and allowing his team to thrive, he transformed his business and improved relationships with his staff.
If this conversation sparks your desire to strengthen your own soft skills, we invite you to check out our Soft Skills Studio, a space where purpose-driven entrepreneurs like you gain practical tools to lead confidently and communicate effectively. You'll find the link in the show notes to learn more and join our growing community. Now let's get to the episode. Hey, Mickie, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you with us today. Can you take a few moments to just tell us more about you and what you consider to be the most valuable soft skills for entrepreneurs?
Sure. So my name is Mickie Kennedy. I run eReleases, which is a press release distribution company, and I've been running it since October of 1998. There's been several milestones of the business, but the biggest one was hiring people. I hired one of my really good friends, and over a period of years, our relationship deteriorated.
Oh, man.
She left, and I continued to hire people, and they just sort of cycled out. And I realized that I had a problem, that I wasn't hiring the right people, and I wasn't happy with the people that I had. And I belonged to a marketing mastermind, which was really instrumental in helping me give a business foundation and teaching me the skills I didn't know because I was a trained poet. I had pursued an MFA in creative writing with an emphasis in poetry. So I knew nothing about business. And so as part of that mastermind, I would just use my hot seat to complain about my staff and the turnover. And finally, after a couple of years, another member of the roundtable who was in HR, but corporate HR, said, "Hey, Mickie, I don't normally work with small businesses, but I'll interview your staff, your customers, and look at your job postings and see why you're hiring the wrong people." And then she circled back with me and said, "I found the problem, and it's not your staff. The customers love them and they're getting great support, but it's you. You are a micromanager." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "Yeah." She says, "You stand behind them daily and sort of tell them what they should be doing." And I said, "Yeah, I'm trying to help them have the best, perfect conversations. Every conversation as if I would say it." And she says, "Yeah, it's driving them crazy. And that's why they're leaving." And I was just like, wow, not being a business person, my business ego is very small. I just accepted it and said, "Yeah, I probably am. I'll just change." And so that day I said, "I'm not going to do it." And then I found myself standing behind one of the staff members as she hung up the phone and said, "Hey, next time you're talking to them, you should." And then I said, "Oh, I said I wasn't going to do this anymore," but I couldn't help myself. So I had two choices. I could sequester myself in the back, which I knew I would hate, or I could just go home. So I gathered the staff. We had a senior person there who had been there 2 years at the time, which was like a big milestone to have kept someone that long since my friend left. I put her in charge. And I said, "I'm going to go home and focus on marketing, the strategy, and leave you guys to do what you do best." That was April of 2015. And since then, all but one person that were there at the time are still there. And now we've got people who've been there for more than 10 years. The turnover is gone. And I and my blood pressure are much better because I'm not running behind people and telling them, "You have to say it in my words," and all of this stuff. So I was the problem. My business is probably more than doubled, maybe 2.5 times what it was at that time. And I think that if I hadn't gone home and focused on the bigger picture, focusing on my business rather than being in the business, I think that I would have not reached that goal. So I think that when it comes to managing people, it's not a skill set that I'm good at. And I had the luxury of just walking away and putting someone else in touch. The person I left in place was older than the rest of the staff, and everybody sort of looked at her as the mother figure at the time anyway. So it was just very natural for her to flow in that position. She's a positive energy who constantly reassures the staff, as opposed to my approach, which made them feel like they were never doing anything right and they felt constantly belittled.
I love that you took that feedback and said, okay, well, what can I do to change this? Because obviously you have a business, you want to grow your business, you want to make sure your team is successful, but why are they leaving? I'm glad that you were told like, hey, this is what's going on, and you were able to fix that. Kudos to you for doing that.
I'm wondering, the nerd in me is thinking statistically, I wonder how many more businesses would be successful if basically the CEO would get out of their own way and be that awareness. So not only did you take that advice, but you then became very self-aware of, all right, I'm not going to do this, but then recognized when you were doing it and took action and did something about it. I think that in itself speaks volumes of, it's great that you notice, but now you have to do something about it and not just sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those things that if I had gone to business school and my ego was a little bit stronger, I would have maybe challenged it and said, no, that's not right. I've just tried these people, me against them sort of mentality. And I'm so glad I wasn't. And I also recognize I had the luxury of being able to walk away. I recognize that some people in their small businesses may not be able to actually leave, and they have to sit there and sort of work on themselves or find another solution, like barricading yourself in a back office, which I felt was my only other option. Because when it came to it, it was like an obsession. As soon as someone said something on the phone, I learned in the marketing mastermind, try to always say yes and try to not say no's. And even if you're saying no, try to say it in a way that's like, while we don't offer that, what we do offer is, and why this is better. And I was trying to instill those kinds of things into my staff. And as my HR consultant friend said, they're going to talk the way they're going to talk, Mickie, and you're not going to really be able to get them to be everything in your tone and in the way that you would say it. And you just have to accept it, that they're doing a great job. They're getting the information across to them. And at the end of the day, the customers are happy. And I think that is really the important thing. Are they actually giving the customer a good experience and getting the information that they need to the customer?
That is great, because I see it as the way the business is internally is going to affect the way externally. So if your customers are happy, then going back to self-aware and not micromanaging the listings, like, okay, well, if I'm not doing this and then the customers are happy, then why should I keep doing this? And obviously, when you start a business, you have your skill set. You want to do X, Y, and Z, but then you don't have these other skill sets. And recognizing the fact, like, okay, I'm not sure how to manage these people, like how you did, like hire somebody to come in and say, hey, like, this is what's going on. So, I mean, as long as your customers are happy, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it is about customer service, and my business is a really strong point. And I was hiring the right people. It was just the person that we needed to fire or let go was me. And I was okay with that. And I really do feel a lot better. My relationship with my staff now is so much healthier. I do a yearly retreat at the beach with the staff.
Oh, nice.
And have been doing that for several years. They see me as the fun boss and the one who's rewarding, giving them bonuses and being encouraging. And the people that knew me, which is about half of the staff before April of 2015, are just like, you're just so different now. And I'm like, yeah, life is better. I'm happier. They're happier. Everything's just working out really good. And I think that finding what your strength is, and mine definitely isn't managing people. And I think I didn't personally like being managed. I always had a chip on my shoulder when someone told me what to do, or I felt like they weren't handing stuff off in a way that I felt was friendly. And I think that's one of the things that drove me into being an entrepreneur. But at the end of the day, I suffer as well. And I'm not the right person to really be interacting day to day with staff.
So that leads me to a really interesting question, because that's a pivotal moment in not only your professional life, but really your entire team's. Since then, how have you continued to identify and invest in personal growth to advance professionally?
I think for me, I've focused a lot on the marketing of the business strategy, providing education to my customers, because I see the biggest problem that my customers are experiencing, they don't realize, is that they're doing press releases that aren't really meaningful. So I'm trying to get them to know what meaningful press releases are and the type of press releases that the media finds engaging. And I think that investing in myself, doing like the mastermind that I was part of. I'm part of a local EO entrepreneurs organization chapter, and we get learnings and things like that that really help me personally and help me develop both as a business owner as well as a husband. It really does sort of balance out both sides of being an entrepreneur, because being an entrepreneur impacts a family different than I think that someone who just has a full-time job. And there's things that you navigate that are pretty specific to entrepreneurship. And in addition to that, I think finding a balance with my personal time. I had come from a poetry background, but for those years, I hadn't really devoted any time or energy to creative writing. And so with my time being freed up a bit, I've been able to write and, send out poetry and get a contract with a book forthcoming. So
That sounds like fun.
I think I have a much better work-life balance.
So when we talk about what do we do for like self-care, like what do we do for us? Like we are running a business and we have families and all these things. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, your business as an entrepreneur, it consumes you, but you have to step back at some point and be like, okay, where are my hobbies? Like for me on the side, I like to write as well. Like I write flash fiction. This is so off topic, but it's connected because your personal and your professional life is intertwined. It's a big circle. And if you're not happy in your personal life, how can you bring that happiness? And if you're not happy, if you're not having a good day, like how are you going to show up in the workplace as an entrepreneur for your team, all these things. So you have to fill your cup, because if you don't, then you're just going to be sitting there kind of like, what do I do now?
Right. I think that the pandemic was a time for a lot of people where they personally pivoted, because being home alone and isolated on top of everything else made them much more aware of how perhaps isolated they really are with their business and not interacting with others and things along those lines. At least for me, I was so isolated that I was just yearning for Zoom calls with people and to be able to connect with others.
This is why I like to record every week, because this is our connecting with people.
I think that has been a big benefit of the podcast. Is I would have never thought to reach out to someone that does press releases and the skill set and things that you have. Your story is so unique. I don't know a single person, entrepreneur or otherwise, that if someone told them you're the problem, would not even just accept it, but would listen, like actively listen to understand and then take action on it. That's a really big, and I pride myself on being open-minded and seeing things from multiple angles. And even I feel like I would have had to take a moment and sit with it. And you were just, all right, let's roll with it. We're going to make changes immediately to benefit your business and your team and everything else. I love that.
Yeah. Another thing that I learned with part of the marketing mastermind was split testing pages. They call it A/B split testing. And it's where you have two landing pages that are identical, but you make like perhaps one change, like the headline is slightly different. And then you compare the results until it gets statistically relevant. You pick a winner. And I became really intrigued by that you could use math to sort of measure successes and make incremental changes one at a time, so that over time, you'll have a much better landing page. And I realized you could do that in your business as well with processes. We onboarded people who became new customers to e-releases by sending them what they called a shock and awe package. And it was a package of just fun, crazy stuff. We're from the Baltimore area, so we included crab flavored chips, which is Old Bay seasoning. And we have a relationship with Edgar Allan Poe, the city does, an Edgar Allan Poe figurine that said nevermore, nevermore, and just a lot of little fun stuff. And a person came to me and said, hey, I appreciate the box, but I kind of felt like it was unprofessional. And again, I could be offended and just say this person doesn't have a sense of humor and isn't fun, or I could split test it. So I did that. I sent all new customers over the next 6 months. Half of them received that package, and the other half just received a book that was also included in the package, but it's just a book and a welcome letter from me. Then we measured the lifetime value of that population. And at the end of 1 year, the people who received just the book, their lifetime value was almost double. And at the end of 2 years, it was like quadruple. So that person helped me realize that it is unprofessional, that people, for whatever reason, when they got that box, even though it was like $60, $70 worth of stuff, they weren't coming away with the impression that I wanted them to. And they weren't coming back and using us again and again. So we definitely started just sending out the book and the letter. And that's just the way I sort of approach things. I know that some people and CEOs with a bigger ego would just say, well, this is what we do. We're fun. And you're going to take this fund if I have to ram it down your throat kind of thing. But for me, I just sort of take things systematically. And if someone's a trusted person, then I'm going to trust their advice and recognize it as possibly being true. And in the case of the HR person who told me I was a micromanager, I saw it. Then one day I tried to change. I realized I couldn't.
I think this is the perfect time to think about the A/B testing, I guess, even with your processes. Like, how does your workflows with client communication or even with potential clients, like, how do you approach that with how many times do I touch base with you to try and get a chat with you? Is it better to do virtual? Is it better to do in person? I could go down a rabbit hole for several minutes and probably several days on that. But each step in your workflow could have a variation to see which one does work out better. It sounds like it's time consuming, but like you were pointing out, if you look at the complete lifespan of that effort in the long term, it's worth it.
Yeah, I think that you have to look at what are the areas in your business that could be split tested and what are the ideas that you have that would be better. So for me, I got prodded into that split test just because someone had come to me and told me that they thought it was unprofessional. And rather than be offended, I felt like it was a good opportunity to test that. And I'm so glad that I did, because it took a lot of effort sending out those packages and a lot of money. Afterwards, we're spending $15 to send out a book and a letter rather than $60, $70. So there was immediate savings there, but the bigger savings is the fact that the lifetime value of this population is now going to be quadruple what it would be if I had done it the previous way.
That's awesome. And I know, like, a lot of the times I see where people don't receive feedback well. But if something is not working, I would prefer you to give me feedback. Like, tell me how it is, because if I'm going to keep doing my job, doing this thing, and it's not working, but nobody's telling me, then I'm just going to keep going. And if nobody told you, like, hey, you're micromanaging, then you would have just kept having a revolving door of people constantly. Like, that does not seem, obviously, you don't want to go down that road. So
that is one of my pet peeves, is people not sharing their experiences, especially like friends or people that have a bad experience and they don't share it with you or give you advice. And I know why they do it, because I've done it myself. I've gone to people and said, hey, I ended up using your service and they really dropped the ball here and here. And I felt like you could really improve the customer experience if you did this and this. I've never had that received well by anyone. It really has resulted in what I considered close business acquaintances just being lost as a result of that. And I think it's a shame, because my goal in telling them that is to be just like the person who told me the box was unprofessional, to give them something to at least test and see if maybe I might be right, that this is an area that they could improve and make better. I had an experience with someone a little over a year ago that was a business acquaintance, and I just saw so many opportunities that they were missing the ball with me. And I felt like they could be such a better business if they made this change or that change. And I stopped myself from sending the email. I had written it out and everything. And I just said, Mickie, this is never going right for you. So I didn't send it. And I don't really regret it, because everything I know about this person, it's actually, I think that they really would be offended rather than see it as an opportunity to improve. And so I think that there is a skill set when it comes to getting criticism and getting even a bad review and making it a learning experience rather than being defensive.
Challenge accepted. Like, take that challenge and just okay, what do we do now? Like, just go with it.
Hey there, listeners. Ever feel like you're struggling to connect with customers or lead your team effectively? That's where soft skills come in.
Entrepreneur Encounter isn't just another podcast. We're a community dedicated to helping early stage entrepreneurs like you master the soft skills that make or break a business.
Technical skills are important, but without communication, collaboration, and confidence, your business might never get off the ground to the next level.
In our membership, Dana and I share actionable insights and tips to help you nurture the soft skills you need to thrive.
Give you access to bonus content, workshops, and a network of like-minded entrepreneurs who are all on the same journey.
We'll teach you how to boost your confidence,
Become a leader who inspires and motivates your team,
navigate conflict like a pro,
to resolve disagreements without drama and build stronger relationships.
communicate clearly and concisely, get your message across, build trust, and close the deal.
If you're ready to take your business to the next level, join the circle by clicking the link in the show notes. So for other entrepreneurs, no matter what niche they're in, I think receiving that criticism and using it as a learning experience, even if it's just you can't make everyone happy because there's always going to be someone that doesn't enjoy your work style or what have you, but maybe there is a process to change. So what piece of advice would you give to other entrepreneurs to maybe not jump into that mindset, but to like even baby step towards it so that when and if they get feedback, they sit in it if they need to, but keep that open mindset of this is a learning opportunity. How can I be better?
Right. I think one of the things is to maybe just ask for feedback and just take it into advisement as this is something to consider and not to attack or react, but rather to maybe bring in your staff and say, is there something to this of what they say? I haven't seen it lately, but there was this approach, I think it was Kaizen, where you make small incremental improvements in your business. And over time, it creates a giant, very successful business. There was people years ago that would ask at the end of an order or at the end of a working experience, if there was one thing we could do that would make us 5% better, what would it be? And I think that approach could really bring some people thinking, yeah, they screwed up here, but what is the one thing that they could do that would make the experience better? And I think that if you were to get sort of feedback like that over time, you could perhaps implement some small little changes in your business that would lead to a better experience overall. And I think that might be a better approach, that rather than say, roast us with a review, what is the one little thing that we could do to make an incremental improvement?
I think that's perfect. Actually, I'm sitting here thinking we send out a post-recording survey. I know I asked for feedback, but I don't know if that particular question or a variation of that is in it. So before I send it to you, I'm going to add it just so I can make sure that it is correctly being sent. Because I do want to hear that. Like we get together once a week or once a month and like prep content. We try to look at the feedback. I get excited when someone finally fills out our survey and I send it to them like, look what they said. I think that would just help us be even better, especially as we're finalizing the upcoming year and everything else.
Yeah, I love feedback. I would love any type of feedback. And it's funny because one of the teams I work with in our team meetings, the owner is always all like, so what's your feedback? Like, what do you have to say? Nobody says anything. But that, I think I'm going to be like, hey, like, can we just a little bit here and there?
Sure. Yeah. Like, what is the one small little thing we could do to provide a better experience for you? Something like that.
For sure.
Well, honestly, I feel like that's a perfect note to end on, is asking for feedback and receiving the feedback. So for our listeners that are tuning in and would love to learn more about you and what you do, how can they connect with you?
My website's ereleases.com. All my social media is on the lower right. I do have a free masterclass that teaches people the types of press releases they should be working on. And if you're new to PR, considering it's a great place to start. And it's less than an hour long video, so the ask is very small. And again, it's completely free. And that's at ereleases.com/plan, PLAN. And feel free to also call or email or chat with my staff. You'll see a much friendlier group of people than we had before April 2015. And they really do give a great experience. And I'm very proud of them.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Mickie. And as always, all of our information will be in the show notes. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Remember, soft skills aren't just some fluffy buzzwords that get thrown around in the corporate world. They're the key to unlocking your full potential as a professional and a human being. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself and seek out opportunities to improve your soft skills. Sarah and I have a variety of workshops, online courses, and complimentary clarity calls for you to practice in real time with us. Links are always in the show notes. And be sure to join us next time for more insights, tips, and tricks to help you succeed in your entrepreneur encounter.